welcome to Barbatus Catholic Podcast, a show where three Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. We are your hosts,
Gustavo,
Ivan,
and Walter. And today we have our 100th episode. And yes, you heard it right. Ivan is here with us.
I do not deceive you. It is my voice.
We brought him back from retirement. Good to have you, man. That's fun.
Thanks.
Did you miss us?
I did.
Yeah.
This is weird. Just being in here and seeing all the equipment again.
I know.
It's like I forgot how to do this.
We're back where we started.
Well, not necessarily, not the boiler room, but in the
It's
garage.
true.
We should have done it in the boiler room.
I know, for old time's sake.
Está lleno de tiliques. It's up to the trunk, as we would say in Spanish,
Up to the trunk.
of things. But no, we need to, we started using Riverside, and this garage was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that you guys were coming today, so I cleaned up.
Yeah.
It looks
And,
good.
That was filled up with camping gear and garbage and some
You
other
keep
stuff.
garbage, just like random
Well,
garbage, or
no, recyclable.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It was trash day today.
I don't know. I mean, you might not.
Sometimes.
I mean, we're not,
Not judging,
judging.
no.
Yeah.
Just not. Just
You
overnight.
can be a hoarder, but I appreciate that you cleaned up. But yeah, doesn't it happen like that when you're like? I think Adam Carolla said once, if you want your house to be like the cleanest it's been since you bought it, have a party.
Right.
You'll clean like every nook and cranny that you never look at. You'll find dirt like if you were a detective.
Because 3 months from then, you're still gonna be finding stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, oddly enough, we clean up when the babysitter is gonna come. We have to impress her. It's no, she doesn't care. All right, Ivan, you want to move to Finland? There's a good thing about Ivan is that he gives us feedback even when he's not one of the hosts.
I hear the episodes and it's like, sounds like Walter and Gustavo are mad at each other.
Yeah.
And then the next episode they're happy again.
He's a focus group of one.
Yeah. So then I'll send him a message on Telegram and then I'll message Walter privately. I'm just kidding. I don't.
Do you talk? Okay, seriously.
No.
Do you guys talk to each other without me?
Yes. We're doing Exodus 90. We have a whole
'Cause I
other
don't.
thread. Oh, that's the only thing that you want it to be hurtful. That's the whole thing.
No, yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to move to Finland?
I know.
It sounds great.
Sounds pretty cool. But,
It's cold.
it's cold.
It's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Right,
not then.
maybe not.
It's too cold.
I don't think I can ever live in the cold. It's awesome here. I mean, it's been chilly those past couple of weeks, and it's great. And for a change of pace, the holidays, you're always at 78 and sunny, right? It was an awesome holiday season, and it's kind of like lingering a little bit because it's still in the low
50s?
50s, 60s, right?
Yeah.
It drops to the 40s in the evening.
It's awesome though.
I mean, you don't want to shovel snow every
Oh, heck
morning?
no. Oh, no.
No?
I would, no, not at all. You don't shovel sunshine, so I'm never leaving here.
Wait, when you lived in Finland,
Yeah.
when were you over there?
July through December, so
July to December. So
pretty
you got
much.
you
I
got the cold of it.
Yeah, 3 months. I got depressed because there was no sunlight.
Wow.
And it's
So-
like snows a lot.
Yeah. And then it gets warm, and then it thaws out, and then it freezes over, and casi me rompo la madre varias veces. I almost slipped and broke my head, but you get used to it. But anyways, what we got used to was 100 episodes. My goodness. Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Who would have thought?
Not me.
Not I.
We had to do it. I prepared some stats because numbers are awesome, and I thought that just like we in the podcast have talked about the Dundies.
Yes.
I thought that we would institute the Beardies.
The beer.
Oh, there you
No?
go. I like it.
Maybe you like it. Okay. I was not sure about the name. What do you think about it?
No, I like it. It's just now I'm the one without a beard.
Oh,
You
that's
have a rat
true.
mustache, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I got the mustache.
it passes. for
How
something.
long have you had the mustache now?
I think I did it in the summer. So
Yeah,
it's been since July of last year.
Yeah, I gotten used to it now.
Same.
Not to say that I like it. I'm just used to it.
You're rocking it like revolucionario style too.
It's like es un bigote aguamielero que tiene.
Somebody called me Pancho Villa the other day. It's a compliment. I'll take it.
Yeah. No,
I like it.
Yeah,
It's nice.
but anyways, so remember when we used to say that our 10 listeners? So this is all from Apple Podcast Connect, which is like roughly like 70% of our audience listens to us through that platform, Apple Podcasts. So we went from 10 listeners to 403 listeners.
Take that.
Take that. 119 of them are followers, which means that they are subscribed to the podcast.
It's just not our wives, guys.
Just not our wives. We lost 30 on the way. I'm assuming they didn't like the banter.
Yeah, my wife was one of them.
That's very funny. We've had about 8,000 plays. And our time listened is 758 hours, which collectively means that people have heard us talk for a little over a month nonstop.
Nice.
Which sounds like a torture in my list.
It does.
Our top 5 cities where people listen are Phoenix, Mesa, Atlanta, Seattle, and New York City.
Seattle's a head scratcher, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
But Atlanta as well. Like New York City, I can figure out because we had Randy from I Am Beggar, Jackie Mulligan, and Jeffrey Bruno.
Like literally back to back, right?
Right. But did you tell people in Atlanta, Ivan?
No.
In Seattle?
Life Team does have their headquarters in Atlanta. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So they're, I think their main offices are in Mesa and then in Atlanta as well. I could be wrong, but I know that they have a lot of Life Team stuff in Atlanta. Seattle, I have no idea.
I know. If you're listening and you live in Atlanta, Seattle, drop a comment.
I know. Like, how do you know us? Or
Yeah.
What is it about?
Who told you about it?
What is it about Walter?
Who's forcing you to?
Who's forcing you? Yeah. Who downloaded this on your phone as a prank? It's funny that 2 weeks ago we had like 60 downloads from Stillwater, Oklahoma, and Mateo's godfather moved there because he is working at Oklahoma State University as the band director. Shout out to Phil Vallejo, my compadre. And I was like, are you binge listening to the podcast? What's going on? Like 60 downloads in 1 week. And he's like, oh, I just told my whole Exodus 90 group to listen to the podcast.
There you go.
I'm like, oh. Well, shout out to the Exodus 90 group at Stillwater, Oklahoma. Thank you for listening. And
we did not pay Exodus 90 for that endorsement, by the way. So that's all organic.
Yeah, I know.
It's good.
They're not paying us. It's not endorsed. It's like, I don't know why. This fourth time. You've done it like 3-4 times as well?
This is my third time.
Yeah, well, we
Exodus
like
90,
punishment,
come on.
I guess.
Reach out to us.
Yeah.
On the 100th episode. Why not? Just reach out to us.
I know. Nathaniel, if you're listening, hit us up. Cold showers and holy hours. I got a sticker on my laptop for Exodus 90. It's pretty cool. All right. So I have like 3 categories for the Beardies. The rest was just stats before this. So let's have people guess. We're going to say the category is longest episode. And shout into the wind what do you think the episode might be. Wrong.
That's not it.
Whatever you were thinking, no.
That's not it either. No.
So
we're not gonna advance until you get it. So
no,
take your time.
Not that one. Episode 59 takes the prize for longest episode, The Passion of the Christ Through the Eyes of a Physician, featuring Deacon Peter Ariema. It ran for 1 hour and 11 minutes.
Dude, I love every second of it too.
It could have been a 2-hour episode. Easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the ones that we did a short in YouTube just to try it out, and someone, just the internet is wonderful. Someone had the audacity to say, "Well, this was a waste of a minute."
I know.
And I was like, "All right, well, thanks for the feedback."
Trolls, you know.
Yeah, don't feed him. So the shortest episode, on the other hand, and you guys are gonna love this. It was episode 30, Our Lady of Sorrows, 27 minutes. You remember? You're laughing, but the people that are listening don't know. Either one of you want to tell that story?
Yeah. So basically, we wanted to do an episode where we prayed the Seven Sorrows. It's a devotional. It's like it has its own rosary, right? And none of us knew how to pray it.
Well, that was the first thing.
That was the first thing.
Well, then we started praying it, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, not even halfway through, we're like, this is going to take, like, 40 minutes, guys. Let's just cut.
Easily. So we, like, pieced it out and was like, well, this is this. Pray it. And here's the website where you can get it.
I know.
But oddly enough, it has the highest average consumption, which means how much of an episode people listen to, which is 93%.
There you go.
So people listen to almost all of it.
Oh, do you think it was people like sharing it, like, look at what these guys are not? They don't know what they're doing. Look at these guys. And there were people who were just like teasing us and laughing at us. This is the worst. You got to listen to the worst podcast ever. Listen to this crap.
Could have been.
Maybe they play it in schools of how not to do a podcast.
How not to do a podcast.
That's
what?
Part of a curriculum in like a university or something. Yeah.
I have this theory that there might be people that leave the podcast on loop for their dogs when they leave the house. You know, like some of them must be like,
dogs hate us, bro.
I don't know. It's a very soothing voice for dogs or cats. Could be either one. Okay, and the last category that I have is the episode with the most engaged listeners, meaning listeners that at least played 40% or 20 minutes of an episode. And this one goes to episode 77, Jackie Mulligan, with 29 engaged listeners.
Nice.
So yeah, 37% of our episodes have been interview episodes, which I thought that we were gonna have more interviews, and then I started counting them, and somehow it felt like we had more.
Yeah,
but it's only 37.
It fell off a little bit towards the end of last year because again,
the holidays,
get busy and stuff, and they don't return your calls no matter how much you pester them and stalk them on social media. I don't know. People are just weird, I guess.
I know. It's like the last week's episode with Father Michael O'Loughlin. We were we tried to contact him first in August of 2022, and we recorded the episode in January of 2023. We made it happen, guys. We made it happen.
Yeah.
So, should we do a thank you to all of our guests? So, I guess first let's go around and say, like, from all of the guests, which one would you say is like your favorite out of all of them? Just putting people on the hot spot. It's like, who do you like the most? Which one is your favorite child?
I think for me, and only because I was here when we recorded it, was Ryan Ayala.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, it was a very good conversation.
It was.
And then at the end of, people didn't hear this, but at the end of the episode, we were just here in the garage, just kind of talking like homeschooling.
Yeah.
Just the faith and everything, and it was a good conversation. It was a good night. So
yeah, it could have been one of those portions that you leave for the members portion of the episode
behind a paywall.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because we talked for a good 20 minutes after that.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yours?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many. I really liked Steve Ray. I'll tell you why. Because it was kind of like our first intro into like a bigger name out in the Catholic sphere, right?
And it was the first interview that we did.
And it was the first interview that we did, and we did it. Well, he did it because we didn't talk. It was just good to just like hear him.
We just prompted him.
You know,
with
we
questions.
just prompted, and he just like and that was a pretty long episode too. But there's too many. I mean, I think every single one of them, I'm grateful for them just like lending their time. You know, from priests to I don't know, people in the Instagram influencer field with Keith, you know,
and Brian,
Grassroots Catholic, and Brian, and it's all of them, man.
Tell me what's Brian's Instagram account name?
Catholicism.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I always stumble with it. I always want to say alcoholicism.
Not quite. But yeah, let's just go down memory lane. We had Ryan Ayala, Father Daniel Cruz, AJ Enfield, Father Don Klein, Jamie Henson, Father Mark Mary of the CFRs, Chilo Salinas, Deacon Andy Lambros, Steve Ray, Father Ed Foley, Vice Postulator for Blessed Lance Casey's cause for canonization, Keith from Grassroots Catholic, Deacon Peter Ariema, Brian Edwards, Christopher Pereira from the TLI, Jessica Conley from Telos Art, Simone Riscola from Endow Groups, Sam Flenders from Berceloto Coffee Roasters, Aaron Monin from TLI, Father Oliver Vitor, Father Augustine Wilmid from Birra Nurcia, Pat Flynn, Jessica Hanna, Father Michael Paso, FSSP, Gary Kirkles, Chris Lewis from Barbatus Catholic, Vivian Imbruglia, Jackie Mulligan from Reform Wellness, Randy Farbach, Kevin Donahue, Ryan Sharber, Jeffrey Bruno, Randy from Ironbeggar, Father Paul Sullivan, Armando Ruiz, Brett Gilfillan, James Wilson, and Father Michael Laughlin. I think my favorite for me would be Father Augustine Wilmith.
Oh, yeah.
From the Benedictines of Nurcia.
Because beer.
Our beer.
And
still have a bottle of
really?
I just
Birra
drank
Nurcia
it.
Extra.
I just drank my last one 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
That was delicious.
It's so good.
You saved it that long?
I did.
It was from Father's Day.
I know, but I didn't want to just drink it. I wanted to save it for
special occasion,
so I just drank it. So
what was the special occasion? Saturday.
And then at the end of it, it wasn't even I mean, it was because my compadre came over and we smoked a cigar. And
Got it. Okay, I'll call it a special occasion.
It was just. But now I'm out. So Father Augustine, if you're listening to
this,
this,
they have a new beer. They have a triple.
That's really?
Send it, Father. Send it.
You can order it.
I'll order it, but still send it.
But yeah, thank you all for saying yes to coming to this very humble podcast. We couldn't have done it without you and the cross-pollination of the audiences to go from 10 to 403 listeners.
Yep. It was good too because it was so varied.
Yeah,
you learn something different from each one of them. Like, I don't know, when we talked to Chilo, his ministry, how he's evangelizing through music, and the passion in everybody's art form in their own right. Pat Flynn,
dude,
like an
Pat
amazing guy.
So
you see him and you're like, how is so much knowledge contained in like one head?
Did you listen to that one, Evan?
I did. Yeah,
so good.
I really like the guests because I feel like, especially secular people, like you hear Catholicism, and it's like you put Catholicism like in one box, and it's like this is what it is. But it's so much more than that. I mean, like you said, talking with Chilo and talking about him leading worship in that ministry, and then Father Augustine, like talking about beer,
right.
and then the Reform Wellness, all those things, like things that are just good for like the human person as a whole. Like it's so cool to hear all of that from different people. So
yeah, just like an expression of like universal, right? Catholic,
absolutely,
and how all the expressions, like Catholicism is not a one size fits all. It has a bunch of expressions and like I don't know, spectrum, if you want to call it. It's probably the wrong word to use, but let's just call it a spectrum. Like with Father Michael Laughlin, like Byzantine, like Eastern churches, it's like mind blowing how, you know, that's still Catholic, and now I want to like carry a prayer robe.
I know
everywhere. And then you have like, you know, Father Michael Paso, this a priest celebrating the extraordinary Latin rite, so the traditional Latin Mass, and how that is also like flourishing in the church. Which is amazing to see. Many people that are doing things to build the kingdom of God. Here, right now.
Yeah, from beer to coffee. You know, when we talked to Sam Flanders, it's like she pours everything, pun intended, into the business side of it, but it's fueled by her love of Christ and family. You know, and the other thing that I noticed is that we had maybe 4 people that attended Thomas Aquinas College.
That is true.
So that's like another pattern there that I started seeing, and I noticed that last week with Father Michael that he attended it too, right? Yeah,
for a year,
but he was there.
Who was the I don't remember her name, but the one that she's an artist and she like paints.
Vivian,
that was her.
Yeah,
that was
icons.
a really good one. I really liked that episode.
Yeah, she's.
It was just cool, like to hear her
process, right?
Yeah, her process of how she, you know,
prays through
it, and then how she gets started, and like literally her job is to just be home painting.
Like, yeah, that's perfect.
I thought that was a really cool episode.
Yeah. She's, and also one of those episodes, like, you know, as an interviewer, it just like makes your life easy because
she was great.
They just talk. I mean, as an interviewer, I think that, you know, we first, I feel like the first like 50 episode of Barbatus was like us trying to figure out our voice, and then the second half of the 100 episodes was us learning how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Not in a way that, you know, we know how to hold a conversation, but it was it's different when you have to think of open-ended questions instead of like, do you like the color purple?
Yeah.
You know? Instead of what's your favorite color?
Yeah.
So it has been very rewarding to do the interviews as well as the solo episodes because, you know, thank you both of you for like putting up with, we're going to talk about being a reservoir. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but sure, let's talk about being a reservoir. For some random thing that I...
Gustav and I just look at each other like...
Okay, let's just follow his lead.
I'll nod. It's a podcast, but I'll nod.
Good insight. Sure.
No, that's very...
How does that make you feel, Walter?
What would Solanus do in this kind of situation? Which also, like, we towards the end, like, we did 1 or 2 episodes, Solanus theme, which has also been like a great comfort to know. Like, we have his relic right now in the middle of the table. It's been great to have him as a patron saint. And if you don't know a lot about Blessed Solanus Casey, we have about 5 or 6 episodes about him. So go check him out. And how are we doing on time? I didn't even start a...
We're good.
We're good? Okay. I just didn't want to run short or long, so we're good?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
can I just say one last thing before we move on from the...
Yes, absolutely.
From the guests. I invite everybody listening to pray for each and one of our guests. It's amazing that we got to talk to so many really, really good and faithful Catholics. So I just invite everybody to pray for each one of these people for everything in their life, you know, for their projects, for their ministries, for their health, for their families, for their priesthood, for their diaconate. It's very rewarding, like Walter said, you know, to be on the receiving end because we're not obviously the best theologians or the theologians at all, or the most trained in this sphere, but to be able to just have conversations with people that are willing to tell you their witness, their story, how they struggle, how they overcame it, it's just very, very, I'm very touched by each and one of these guests. So I just invite everybody to pray for all of the 37 people that we had on the podcast.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So, the second part of the podcast is, I don't want to say this a little bit more serious, but we have an announcement. Sit down, everybody. We need to talk.
Or get up and sit back down.
Oh, yes, do that.
That's exactly what you guys told me.
That's right.
They texted me
What an
like,
answer.
"Are you sitting down right now? Stand up and sit down again."
Yeah, there you go.
And I did.
And you did. Like 2 days later. I'm not even bitter about it. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm busy.
Yeah, I know. We're all busy. So if you'll remember, around October of last year, we had this episode called State of the Union. And Gustavo and I were discerning the future of the podcast. So back then, we decided to complete our original goal that I had thrown out as a challenge to Gustavo to do 100 episodes, and then we would reevaluate. And we got together recently, and through prayer, this is very important, through discernment, we both felt called to pause producing the podcast for several different reasons. And Ivan, please don't start crying. I see that you're already like welling up in the tears. So do you want to kick it off on the reasons?
Sure. Well, basically, family situation has changed. It's. I brought it up before in the podcast. We became foster parents in 2020, right in the beginning of the pandemic. We were fostering 2 kids. So we did that for about a year and change, and then a third sibling came into the picture. So in all, it was 5 kids at home in the middle of the pandemic, me working from home, and it became somewhat challenging, but we kind of like soldiered on, and then God's design, the kids had to return to the dad in the picture, and that happened last October, and then October of 2021. I'm getting the dates confused. Needless to say, they came back to us last summer, and again, 5 kids in the house, and it just time became a little tricky, for prioritizing things and being productive and doing the work and doing the editing and doing everything. 2 older girls are in youth groups, so there's 2 different youth groups that they're attending. So there's like a lot of back and forth. So it's been a little bit more challenging, at least on the family front for me. I think that's one of the things that prompted it. The fact that I was more stressed in terms of like having to do the podcast instead of wanting to do the podcast. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, we used to get together and we were having all these guests and stuff. It was so exciting. And then how we talked about in October, it became more of like a chore that we had to get done because we felt that our 10 listeners were going to get like sad if they didn't hear us for a week or something.
Right.
From my perspective, I'm a perfectionist. I want to do things right, and I want to have like the right intentions and the right mentality to doing it. And yeah, those things with timing and allocating appropriate amounts of time to not have it be stressful was just not there, on a personal basis.
But you are a man of your word.
Hmm?
You're a man of your word, and that's why you were not going to just quit. Aventando la escoba como la chacha. So thank you for that. I know that we've been doing like this recording on Monday evening and then editing and publishing Monday night, which it's not sustainable. And it's been a lot of discernment about how our vocation comes first as fathers. Like, Ivan, you stepped down at the beginning of 2022 to go on this amazing adventure, which tell the people at home how Don Taco is doing now that you're more involved in it.
Yeah, we're doing well. When I said that, sorry I didn't respond after 2 days because I was busy, it's because, I mean, Don Taco, it's grown a lot. It's been growing a lot for like the past 5 years, but now that I'm a little bit more involved, it's just, there's like, we're doing new things and just trying to, get bigger clients and stuff like that. And keeping like our old clients. So it's been really good. And I remember like when I stepped away from the podcast, like it sucked, because I love doing this and it's a lot of fun. But I also had my vocation comes first, and it was going to be so tricky. My wife is amazing, and she's Wonder Woman in my eyes. But she needs me there, and there was times where I just got to give a little bit more family time, and so I had to do that. But I mean, we've been super blessed with Don Taco and everything, like family life and everything. So, but
that's good.
Yeah,
I know I grow every time I have Don Taco.
Right. I was looking at your list of all the guests. Father Paso, he's a huge fan of Don Taco. Just saying.
Who isn't?
Just saying.
Who isn't? I mean,
we actually brought up Don Taco in the episode.
I think I remember hearing about it.
So we need to make an excuse to invite him to a taquiza. But anyways, so just so you listening have an idea of like what it takes to make a podcast, just coming up with ideas, writing outlines, finding and booking guests, recording, editing, publishing, promoting. It can be very rewarding. But there's a lot of like moving pieces to it. But
and it's a lot of work. And honestly, like kudos to you two, who I feel like when I was still doing the podcast, I feel like you two did like a lot of the work. Like Walter writes the outlines, and then Gustavo is, getting all the equipment and then cutting the episode at night and then publishing it. And I feel like I did social media. And sometimes I would do social media.
Mm-hmm. No, so, but the launch was pretty good because we had a 10 listeners on that.
Yeah, but I mean it's a lot of work. It's definitely like being you got a full-time job, and then you have your family time, and then on top of that, trying to do a podcast, it's a lot. But you guys did it, man. 100 episodes.
It's all by the grace of God. I think what happened, even this decision, of pausing it. We're not ending it. We're pausing it, and we'll see what the Lord calls us to do.
That's a very good differentiation.
It's a way of just going. And discerning and having open communication about it, because we never stop talking about it, and we check in with each other every single day. And as challenging as it's been, it's been more rewarding and more fun than anything, So there's no lack of enthusiasm from that standpoint. It's literally just a matter of logistics and manpower at this time,
Yeah, we still love each other. We haven't fought. We hug each other at the end of each episode. All that stuff.
Virtually, we hug the screen. Yeah, it's pretty awkward.
But yeah, the most important work that we can do to build the kingdom is to be with our families right now, especially because we have super young children, and then between the three of us, there is 12 kids that we are responsible to raise with our wives.
That sounds so crazy.
It's so crazy.
12 kids.
Remember that when we took that picture at Zach's birthday, it was like 5 of us, and between those 5 families, there's like 16 kids. It's like, tell me that you're Catholic without telling me that you're Catholic.
100%.
But yeah, and the most important thing that we have exercised in this podcast is absolute surrender to the will of God. I guess even though when Ivan stepped down, it was a difficult decision, but there was a lot of peace that came with it. And Gustavo and I are on the same train with the decision. We just arrived to the same conclusion, but it was like at different times. It was kind of weird because you're like, oh, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, oh, I've been praying this, and when we told each other like what we were thinking, it was like, hasta en eso, like the same person, even in those kind of things. But yeah, we need to know. I guess that's like as a leader, spiritual leader of a family, we need to put God first. And even though this is a good effort, I listened to someone say recently, like sometimes we will do the wrong good thing. We'll focus on the wrong good thing. And not to say that the podcast is a wrong good thing, but it could have the potential of becoming something like that,
Yeah, sometimes it happens that you're like way too involved in like a church ministry or a men's group or something like that, and you're spending 3 days getting together with your brothers because you're doing ministry and you're helping the poor, and that's all good, but then you come home and you're like
not there.
You're not there, you're organizing the next men's group meeting essentially. So it does tend to there has to be a balance, and that's where Walter and I kind of like arrived at the same conclusion that we need more balance in this time. Specifically, with young families. It's really demanding. For all you moms out there that have young families, we get it. We're with you.
It's all about what season of life you're in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like us who have such, little kids.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to miss those moments. What's that? Did you ever see that quote by Jordan Peterson? When he says, like, you have kids for 4 years.
Yes.
Like you have them for 4 years, like that's it, and then after that, like, like from ages 0 to 4.
Okay.
Like that's when you see like those formative years, and after that, like, if you miss those moments, like they're gone.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, like I'm a big believer of that. Like, we have such little kids that, like, it's good to be home.
Right.
It's good to be to be at home with our families, and yeah.
Amen to that. But even though we're pausing Barbatus in the podcast format, there are some other projects that we're working on. Do you want to talk about yours?
Sure. It's still in development stages. I'm launching a YouTube channel that focuses on just prayer. I found myself listening to a lot of podcasts, and it's a medium that I think exploded, especially after COVID. A lot of people are relying on the internet to find community and to strengthen their prayer life. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do with this experiment. I'm calling it an experiment because I don't know what the Lord wants to do with it. But it's basically just prayer, the rosary recorded, the Divine Mercy Chaplet recorded. I'm doing it both in English and Spanish to be able to get it out to as many people as possible.
With beautiful graphics, I might add.
Yeah, so that's something that I noticed, that there's obviously, this is not a novel idea. There's a lot of people doing the rosary in a audiovisual form on YouTube. But the designer in me and how picky I am with those things really was like, ooh, I can try to put something better out there. I can just try to put something that is as equally as beautiful as the prayer itself. So that's kind of like the attempt behind it. pairing both all the knowledge and all the expertise that I gained through the podcast, you know, with the video editing and the audio and stuff like that, putting it into something that I can manage at my own time and my own pace, and just offer it up to God to bring people. I think of people like my mom, you know, that during COVID, she couldn't go out because she was like a high risk demo, and wouldn't it be great for her to just pray with somebody else, you know, in the house, other than obviously my dad that she prays with. And the response has been positive. You know, there's people from all over the world already kind of like giving that feedback, and not feedback in terms of good or bad, but the fact that there's...
Oh, there has been feedback. Can we talk about the feedback for a little bit?
There's a demand for this. People are really hungry for prayer in their lives. And that's kind of like the gap that I'm trying to fill, or like accentuate with the content that I'm going to start creating, you know, from anywhere from, like I said, rosaries, novenas, liturgical calendars, everything that it's called a daily Catholic. So it's meant to really cement the fact that we're supposed to be Catholic on a daily basis and practice our faith fervently, not just when it's Christmas or Easter, you know.
Or on Sundays. So go to www.youtube.com /@ The Daily Catholic. That's how you can find it. youtube.com / The Daily Catholic. Subscribe, like, turn on the bell, all that good stuff, so more people can find.
I just subscribed.
Right there you go.
There you go. It has more subscribers than the Barbatus Catholic Podcast YouTube channel, I might add. But that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we have like 1 hour and 11-minute long videos of us tucking our elbows out. That's not a thing in English, right? Hablando hasta los codos.
No.
Dang it. So close. Not even.
Make it a thing. Make it a thing.
I know.
No te rajes. Make it a thing.
This is a tangent, but one time I was working with a guy from Norway, and I said, like, it's a fan of possibilities. Because in Spanish, you know, es un abanico de posibilidades. Like, there's a lot of...
A plethora of opportunities.
He looked at me with, like, the biggest question mark on his face. And I'm like, that's not a thing in English? Because in Spanish, it means another thing. There's a little... Anyways. It was like with the prickly pear on the front of the forehead.
El nopalote en la cabeza.
Yes, exactly. So I started a blog. I know, super original. I've had a lot of like failed attempts, and Ivan is like after Deanna, I guess he's like one of my biggest cheerleaders, because he would like check in with me like, did you post on your blog this week? So I had a personal blog, and then I tried to do our little monastery, which RIP, and I started a Substack, waltercantu.substack.com, and my newsletter is called Peregrino, or Pilgrim. So basically it's just talking about the walk of faith. And I think there's like 10 issues that have been out already, and I'm just, you know, talking about what it's like to be a father of 4 children, being Catholic, and trying to grow in the faith. Books that I'm reading, things like that. Think about like the banter of the podcast, but like better structured.
Got it.
In like between 1,000 and 1,500 words once a week.
It's good.
Yeah, I've been subscribed with 2 emails to help me out.
There you go.
I have I'm gonna use the Don Taco one next to subscribe. So
that's bumping up the numbers.
Well, I've created about 130 different emails, so
and you don't give a shout out to Bustos.
But he hasn't subscribed. That's the thing.
I don't read.
Send it to Carolina.
I'll do that. I read, but I just don't read online. I find it very hard to read on the computer specifically. On the tablet a little bit more, But I like to have a book in front of me. But I'll definitely, for you, I commit of reading the first 500 words.
Or write a book for Gustavo.
Or do it in video format and then send me the YouTube link. I will watch the crap out of that.
You are going to have to edit. That's the thing. Like, it's easier for me to produce writing than to produce a podcast. Because, you know, I'm lost without you.
See, the next ministry, you make the videos, he'll shoot them, and then
Yeah.
move.
Well, that's basically the podcast. I was doing like the scripts and he was doing. But yeah, waltercantu.substack.com. Walter is I cannot spell my own name. Walter like the gun. WalterCantu.substack.com.
Yeah.
It's free, so you can subscribe and get those newsletters delivered to you every Wednesday.
I don't have a project that I've started, but I do this thing where I put meat in a tortilla and then I feed it to people.
Oh, there you go.
Does that count?
That does count. It's like plugged on taco. Where can people reach it?
It brings joy to people, right?
Oh, a lot of it. And gas, by the way.
Why?
Especially
It just does. I mean, those beans are next level.
Loaded. Can you talk about your future enterprise, or is not well formed yet? Okay, we'll save it for later.
Yeah, we'll save it for another time. But
There's something in
We're
the
starting
works.
another podcast about it. Just about that topic.
just about the new enterprise.
Anyways. But yeah, that pretty much sums up what we needed to talk about in this episode. If you are just joining us, we are pausing the podcast until further notice. Basically, if the Lord tells us to go back and do it, we will come again and do it. In the meantime, we have 100 episodes that you can listen to.
There you go. I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
How has the podcast changed you in one way, in one aspect of your life?
That's a very good question. Well, I think for me has been learning a new skill, several new skills, like writing outlines for a podcast is like a very specific skill. You know, it feels kind of weird that you have to stalk people to know what they do and what they have done, to then ask questions that would be relevant and interesting for people to listen to. So kind of getting into like the head of like the listener, and then doing small talk. That's kind of a skill.
Yeah, that is totally a skill.
But now I apply it like in the real world that I don't, and I don't know about you, Gustavo, but I don't like to tell people that I have a podcast. I just never bring it up in conversation. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's like necessary for people to know that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that keeping it a little bit hidden, and if I've never been recognized of like, oh, are you the guy from Barbatus Catholic Podcast? Never, but maybe one day. So yeah, just learning new skills, and you know me, like I always try to like learn new stuff. So just trying to read more in order to have content to make into podcast episodes. I mean, I've always been reading to know more, but just like now make it into a product, basically a podcast episode.
Sure.
So that would be for me how it has changed, because now I have like this as a channel for those things that before they would just like go into my brain, and then sometime you would say like, oh, like Bishop Lefebvre, and I'm like, oh yeah, he did this and this, and we can have a conversation about it. So like sometimes Diana says that I'm like a robot, that you give me like two different strings, and then like something queries my brain as a database, and I spit out like whatever fact that I come up with. Anyway, that is a very long-winded answer for saying
That's good. That's
learning
a good answer.
more.
That's awesome. Before I answer that question, I wanted to mention that not me. I didn't get recognized because somebody was talking to me, but my daughter, Ana Lucia, in youth group, she was talking about something, and a podcast conversation came up and said, "Oh, it's because my dad has a podcast." And then her core member said, "Well, what's the podcast?" And she's like, "Oh, it's Barbatus Catholic Podcast." And this person went like, "Oh, really? That's your dad? I love that podcast." So she was so excited to tell me after I picked her up.
Who's the core member so we can give him some stickers?
I don't know. I think it was a she, but I don't know.
Give
exactly
her some stickers.
And but that was like the first and only time that it was like, "Oh, that was your dad? That's awesome," you know. So she was super proud of it. And then like a day later, I told her that we were gonna pause it.
Oh.
And she's like,
Womp,
"Why, Dad?
I can't show my face at
You're
YouTube anymore,
finally
Dad."
getting recognized. Why now?"
I know. This is it's going to explode. Like, downloads are going to go through the roof. We're going to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's going to be like...
It's like when Selena died, dude.
When Selena died.
People are gonna sign a petition not
Yeah.
to quit, not to cancel.
Oh, my goodness. That would
Not
be
cancel,
hilarious.
pause.
Pause. On pause the podcast.
Yeah.
Hashtag
We were on a break.
Totally. So
let's-
coming back to the answer for me is it has to be the gift of finding joy in the faith through other people's experiences. You know, I get so energized after each conversation that we would have with like Vivian and Bruglia, you know, and how passionate she was with her craft and with her faith, and how alive, you know, and inflamed her faith is. And every person that we talked to, I would just come out of it like a more fervent Catholic. You know what I mean? So I think for me, it's changed
refresh.
me. Yeah, refresh. It's like going to, you know, when you go to a retreat.
Yes.
You come out of the retreat, it's like, I'm gonna like fix the world by myself, you know, because you have the Holy Spirit so ingrained in your veins in that moment, and then life gets in the way again, right? So again, for me, life tends to get in the way every single day. So it's a battle. It's a constant battle. We've talked about like stress. We talked about like anger management was one of our episodes, you know. So that's kind of like the cross that I carry, finding joy and finding just an overall breath of fresh air with every single guest. I think that's what I got from it the most. You know, it helped me grow in my faith in the way that I saw other people living their faith. And I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to be more like that. I want to emulate that, you know, and it kind of like pushed me to do that, because I was like, why not? They're doing it. We should all do it. And I hope that's something that people got out of the 100 episodes, you know, a spark, a conversation, a keyword, a prayer, something that made them want to be better at their faith and be like a more fervent Catholic.
Better disciple.
Mm-hmm.
Following Christ closer.
That's awesome.
Well, from the time that you were in the podcast, I reverted to you. Like, what did you learn?
You know, I think I'm along the lines of Gustavo. Just, I think after, well, for like when I was still doing it, like I think we only had maybe 1 or 2 guests when I was still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, it was just us 3. So just, you know, talking about a subject that not that I didn't know about, but I really had to like prepare for it. Mm-hmm. I feel like that helped me a lot. Like, you know, we're talking about being a reservoir, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like
What?
what is that? But it was like really good insight while doing the episode, and like I learned new things.
And getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly,
Like,
and that was what I was gonna say next. Like getting out of my comfort zone. When you say that small talk, it's like a skill. It is a skill. I'm terrible at small talk. I can't do it. I've tried, and it's something very hard for me.
But you've been in ministry for the longest time.
I have, but I have to turn it on.
Wait, were you in that?
I was. I was on that.
I had to do that.
No shame. No, but like, because I'm an introvert at heart, so like when I have to be an extrovert, when I have to do small talk, even on net, Gustavo, you have to turn it on. At least I had to turn it on.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
more of a skill at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're not an introvert, right, Walter?
No.
So it gets more.
Sometimes I get drained when I'm talking to people.
It's easier when you're an extrovert to be good at small talk and hone in on that skill. It's even harder when you're an introvert and you're trying to do it.
But there are days that you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And you have to like push it. Like,
but your temperament kind of like calls for it, where Ivan's kind of like doesn't, and he has to do more of a push for it, I would think.
Yeah, like example, the most recent time that it happened, it was at that party, the birthday party that we were. And then this guy is like, how do you know the birthday boy? And I'm like, oh, I went to church with him. And it's like, oh, yeah, he's done some events for us. And we just started talking because turns out he's also Catholic. And then we were best friends after that. And Deanna was like, who was that random guy that was talking to you? I'm like, I don't know, some dude.
I don't know, but he's coming to dinner tomorrow, sweetie.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry, we cut you off.
No, I mean, it was just that, just like a lot of growth when it comes to, just getting out of your comfort zone and then just hearing people's stories, people's testimonies, all the guests that you guys had. Like Vivian really made an impact.
Yeah.
Just how she prepares herself to paint. I've listened to Deacon Peter talk about
the passion,
and it's
doesn't get old, does it?
It never gets old. Ever gets old. So it was just really cool. And then just to talk about recognition, I've been recognized twice.
No, really?
Yeah. And the first time it was very awkward because it was at the well at Chilo Salinas' ministry. Uh-huh. And this guy, he's like, are you Ivan from Barbatus? I was like, yeah. It's like, oh, dude, like I listened to all your episodes and this and that. And I'm like, cool. So which one's been your favorite? And he was just like,
the last one?
I know. Yeah. The last one you guys
The first one or the last one?
The one where you guys talk about faith, life, and culture.
Yeah, but he was very nice about it.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. And then the second time I was actually doing an event with Don Taco.
I was there.
You were?
Yeah, it was a Clinton's party.
No, then three times. Then 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
The famous one.
No, you should have stopped at 40, Walter, like this guy did.
Yeah, but I think I was recognized when I was still in the podcast after I got out. Nobody cared about me.
Yeah, I gotta remind my wife every week. It's like, I'm recording a podcast with Walter. He's like, oh yeah, that thing.
Okay, last anecdote before we close it out. It is uncanny, and I don't know if you know this, but every time, well, first of all, Gustavo has his messages linked to his work computer. So his text messages pop on his screen every time that he gets a new one. Uh-huh. Invariably, whenever I text him, he is sharing his screen with someone at work.
Or with a client. I'm like literally presenting a project to a client, and it's like, Walter's like, loop, the outline's done. Can you check it out and let me know what you think? I'm like,
not right, no.
And sometimes I text you in Spanish.
So, yeah.
So,
but it's really funny. I text him every time. I'm like, God, man, between you and Caro, like when she texts me at the store, is like, are you paying? I'm like, I'm in the car. I already paid. What do you need, sweetie? Walter's the same way with the text. Like, I'm in a meeting. I could have one meeting in the middle of the day, and he doesn't text me the 4 hours before the meeting or the 5 hours after the meeting. He texts me
right at
in that minute.
Yeah, man. All I'm saying is, it's for a reason. It's for a reason.
Yeah,
I cariño. All right. Well, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for accompanying us on this wild ride that has been 100 episodes. We are very thankful for you that have been listening, that have, giving us the time to try to communicate something that might help you grow closer to our Lord, which is the reason why we started this podcast in the first place. And stay tuned.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk to you when we talk to you.
Yeah, it's not a goodbye, you know. I mean, we keep praying for us. We'll do the same for everybody that's out listening. And yeah, I mean, it's a pause. You know, we're not closing any doors. Whether it ends up becoming and when, then the Lord will guide us, and you'll be the first to know.
Amen.
And a big thank you to our wives.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Who have put up with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
These
time
2
that we've
years.
been recording and editing and publishing, is that sharing and caring and giving.
They're the real champs.
They're the real MVPs. Remember when we wanted to have like a wives episode?
I know.
We should
And
have
it
done
never
that.
happened.
Maybe for the reboot.
Yep.
Episode 101. Just kidding.
But in the meantime,
You know, before
yeah, go ahead.
I think the one that we are gonna do, whether it's like tomorrow or a month from now or a year from now or 5 years from now, whatever ends up being, is when Solanas gets canonized.
Of course.
We're definitely
Absolutely.
talking about that one.
So
For
start
sure.
praying.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, let's just close out by saying, "Blessed be God in all of His designs," and thank God ahead of time
For sure.
In everything that you do. Keep Him as a friend in heaven. His intercession is pretty powerful, and hopefully you get a miracle. The church declares him a saint, and then we can have another podcast episode. Don't do it because of that, but you know, maybe. Just saying. I'm just putting it out there, okay? Somebody listening is gonna be like, I'm gonna develop a devotion to Let's Casey. Who is this capuchin that these guys are talking about? Anyhow, I digress.
That's awesome.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you when we see you. And Let's Casey.
Pray for us.
Until the next time.